Hello, and welcome to Can We Play Already, the internet show where we try and answer your most burning questions, fulfill your most burning desires, and maybe even cure those burning sensations you're feeling in places you shouldn't. I am your host, Patrick. You often see me as the Dungeon Master or Guild Master here on Can We Play Already, where I DM a really fun game of Dungeons & Dragons set within the world of RAVNICA, the city of guilds. And today we're going to be actually reviewing our last episode, the last time that we streamed. And I'm going to talk about basically my process as a DM, how I came up with ideas, and we're going to go from there. I have with me today one of my players. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Why, yes, I am a player.
Oh.
I'm Justin.
You made that joke last time, like literally
Shit,
the last
did I?
time already.
I have a bingo card for every Justin joke.
And it's the same ones just in a row so that you'll just get them
Yeah,
one
yeah.
after another
I always just get bingo.
subsequently.
Yeah.
I'm Justin. I play D&D.
Yep.
And of course we have
My name is Ben. I'm usually producing the show behind the scenes, but now I'm producing the show in front of the scenes.
you
so
can see him.
my awkward mouse moving around and such, and this mouse pad from the company my dad used to work at.
Oh, hey.
What a lovely anecdote,
Yeah.
Ben.
Well, I just saw it. I noticed it in the camera. I was like, that's weird.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine.
It's all good. We should just start over.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, let's just end this. Let's just blow this place up.
Yeah.
No, we're
Redo.
good.
Mulligan.
Justin made the same joke. Patrick has an STD. Like,
Wait, no. That was is that what registered?
I don't know. I think you should get that burning checked regardless.
Okay, write in the comments if that's what you thought I meant. Okay, well, today, thank you for joining me, guys. We're basically gonna try and go over the last episode, kind of follow along what you guys did in the episode, in that session, and I'm gonna talk about like what was going through my mind, what I had prepared, and what I kind of had to improvise on the fly because y'all unpredictable. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that we're reviewing a episode that we did ourselves. Where's the integrity in that? That's what I want to know.
It's more like I guess a breakdown more than a review. Like we're not because we're not here to say if it was good or bad, but it was really good and you should watch it.
Yeah.
Like we were on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wait for our rating out of 10 at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do have to say, having been in the room and watching it the whole time because I had to, it was the most fun, funny, and ridiculous show, and also surprisingly had the most high intense stakes by the end of it too.
Yeah, it was a good balance.
So there was a lot of I was like, wait, what did they accomplish? I kind of forget. So this might be a good time to go over it because we, over 4 hours we got sidetracked quite a bit, but
Yeah.
it was all in good times. So,
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed watching it over again, and I enjoyed too the parts where sometimes you hear you laughing behind the scenes. It's
can't
really
help
funny.
it.
Yeah. All right. So basically, for the session that we last played, the only things I really prepared were two specific locations. So I had the crypt prepared, so just where you guys were going to go and find this abandoned crypt, and I already knew that it was going to be an Orzhov crypt because that's what was set in the previous episode, and so I just googled crypts because making maps by yourself, sometimes you're not sure like what goes where and what to do. So I just googled like a basic crypt, what it would look like, kind of a small family crypt, and I came up with a map that I drew. And that was pretty much it for that. And then
wow, these are hot tips right here. Oh, I just googled a crypt and was like, yeah, that works.
yeah, and like honestly, even real world examples, I will use maps from like castle maps especially. I will take a real world castle and just be like, great, I'm using this floor plan.
Yep, I remember in a campaign we played, you had the governor's mansion, and it was basically just a floor plan of like a legit house, giant ass house.
It was
So-
I took it from a real world example.
And that's your GM tip of the day to start off is just fucking steal shit. And
Steal shit.
It's fine.
If you're using it for fantasy, I mean, we steal we steal the concept of elves and stuff like that. I mean, J.R.R. Tolkien doesn't have a patent on that.
Yeah, it's all good. So you found some crypts. You laid out a map.
And then the only other place that I had really planned out was the safe house that you were going to go to. So I knew that I wanted the crypt to be connected to the safe house in some way, and you guys would encounter the vampire there.
Oh, that was a safe house.
Yeah.
That did not feel very
It didn't
safe.
feel very safe, did it? No. Oh, you poor things. It was more, should be called an unsafe house.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, they don't even have any condoms there. Or prep. Like,
We
it's-
didn't search well enough. I wouldn't have known. But
That's true. You did not search very well. You looked at the
No.
floor, and that was it. And then you were just like, please ring.
I just looked at the bell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So those were the two main things that I had prepared. I prepared the encounters for those locations, and I prepared the puzzle specifically. And I also had like a pretty general idea how everything was connected. So it starts off, you guys are waking up, and this was a funny moment for me because remember in the episode before the last one, Liam's contact, that doppelganger lady, she took the journal from him. And at the time I thought like, ooh, that'll be like a fun dramatic thing. But then when I was preparing for this particular one, I was like, oh shit. I think it would be kind of suspicious, if he shows up and he doesn't have the journal and he'd just be like, oh, I lost it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just came up with, okay, well, they made a forgery. And I'm like, good thinking. So sometimes you're going to be doing that when you're a DM, when you're improvising something, you think it's going to be really cool. And then you might accidentally make a plot hole or something that doesn't work in your story. Thankfully, the same way that you got to that problem, you can use to get out of it just by trying to come up with a reason why it worked out that way. So that's what that was. It was just like, oh, we made a forgery of this. We kept the original. I'm like, oh, okay, that works. Good thinking.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to say, as a DM, you kind of bailed out your player's character from that situation, because it would have been a very dramatic situation to roll up to the rest of the party the next time, not having the journal anymore that he kept on to, and the rest of the party were already a little suspicious of this character. So it was kind of like, just to set the scene, if you didn't watch the episode, why didn't you watch the episode?
Yeah, come on.
That House Demir is like kind of this subterfuge guild, and he's Justin's character's best friend, and Julian's character doesn't trust him because he's also jealous of their friendship,
Which is so funny.
I love it.
Yeah.
it's we're having a lot of fun, just to put that out there.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like a little surprised actually in that moment, because I was like, oh, Patrick's such a nice DM. He's like totally bailing out Jace's character Liam from an awkward situation.
I was being really nice, and it was and it wasn't because I wanted to be nice. When I do stuff like that, I always have an ulterior motive, and it was basically because I was hoping, and it could have not turned out that way either, but I was hoping that the big reveal that he's part of Demir would happen at the encounter with the vampire.
Right.
Like that's what I was really hoping, and that's what ended up happening, which was really great. But I was afraid that if he was missing the journal, and Zavon specifically, I thought was going to be asking a lot of questions about it and like confronting him, and then everything would have been sidetracked. I was kind of coming up with contingencies, like, oh shit, what would happen? I could totally see it going this way. Okay, I'm just not going to worry about that. I'm just going to do that. But yeah, it totally could. I totally could have just left it, and it might still have worked out similarly, or it could have totally gone off the rails a totally different direction.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from when you kind of have a particular narrative in mind that, it would be more dramatic to stave off this drama from occurring rather than have to sort of force that into, because like you said, Julian's character Zavon being very suspicious if Liam showed up without the diary could have been a whole kerfuffle between them right there. I think though it didn't come up at all. At the end of the day, nobody asked to like review the diary again, or
which is funny because
another time.
There are a few times you guys were asking about it. Just like, what did it say?
They talked about it. They referenced it. They said, "What did it say again?" But at no time did someone go, "Let's go double check and look at it." So, these are the things like you try to prepare, but you never know what players are going to do. So That's DM tip number 2, getting ahead of things and sort of thinking about the potential things players might end up doing, but
it becomes easier
working
once
around.
you know your once you know your players and once you know the characters,
characters
they're
they're
playing.
playing, yes.
Yeah. So that's.
Do you need a coffee, Justin?
No, I already had enough today.
Yeah. Are we boring you?
No, I'm always tired at this time.
Yeah. No.
Every time.
Honestly, it's not the first time. Like, it's just we're always streaming D&D, and Justin's just kind of like, oh.
We
Yep.
honestly, like, maybe it's Lyme disease. Maybe it's just.
Maybelline.
Okay. So continuing on. So when it came to actually finding the entrance to the Undercity where it was specified in the journal where this crypt was going to be, that I wanted it to be fairly straightforward because, and this is kind of another DM tip, is sometimes just like something very vague and very simple makes it easier because you want your story to focus on very particular places. You don't want it to get bogged down in something really boring. I didn't want these guys to just be walking around the park for hours, maybe interacting with other people, maybe people who would stop them. I wanted them to just find it and get to the place, right? Now, you can do the opposite. You know, you can really make it a thing for them to go over and try and actually find it. And maybe there are complications and that can be fun too. But for the show specifically, I thought that would be kind of boring. So, or not boring, but not what the direction I wanted it to go in.
Right.
So that's why I was just like, yeah, you found it. Like, great. Go Zavon, you found it.
I was surprised we went into the sewers so quickly. I was like, we're going to look through the botanical garden. There's like a greenhouse in there, right? I was
Yeah.
like, that sounds like a great place to look.
and I didn't plan that. I like when I said, it's like Allen Garden size.
Yeah,
You know, and
I was
there's a greenhouse there, and then I was like, oh no, shit, Justin's gonna want
I
to go
was
in the
gonna push
greenhouse.
for it.
Yeah.
Yup.
But you didn't.
You see turtles.
You see turtles that people just keep dropping off there.
Yeah.
True facts. At Allen Gardens, they have a bunch of turtles from owners that didn't want them anymore. They're very cute.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was just kind of like, I'm just vaguely describing the area and just kind of came up with what it vaguely looked like. The path to the crypt was kind of the same thing. I wanted to be like the amount of time it went for you guys to go down. I wanted to be fairly long because I wanted to kind of emphasize like you're going pretty deep in the earth. But then once you're kind of traveling through the debris and all that stuff, I came up with the idea that it was basically a bunch of Orzhov ruins. But in terms of, you know, actually having like a map laid out or anything like that, I didn't want that specifically because I thought it would, again, it's just not really what I was going for that. I did want one encounter at least in this location, and one of the best encounters to come up with in the Undercity is zombies. There are zombies in the Undercity, and zombies specifically in the world of RAVNICA are often animated through fungi, which is kind of cool. So the book actually suggests that you use the stat block for zombies in the monster manual, which is exactly what I did. Just use the exact same stat block. The only thing that's different is narrative wise and like look wise, what they look like. They're covered in mushrooms, right?
That was a nice touch, I felt, because it really drove home the connection between the Golgari swarm. There's a different what do you call it, adjective or
noun, I guess it would be.
Group,
yeah.
for like, you know, a flight of bees, or I don't know what they're called.
Hive.
A murder of crows.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the hive is the place. Like, I don't know.
Oh,
what
but
the
you mean
group-
like a particular...
What's the group
group?
of bees?
I think it's
herd.
a swarm.
A swarm.
Something. Yeah.
So the Golgari swarm, who
Yeah.
lives in the sewer, is very fungi driven, and in this book they actually introduced the druid. It's a druid class of the circle of spores to just really kind of tie that in. So
So it's specifically a druid subclass that is kind of like a necromancer, but it's necromancy based on fungi, because the Golgari, they really like fungi because they're kind of like that perfect connection between living and dead. Because they feed off the dead, and that brings forth new life and all that cool stuff. So I just had you guys fight that. The map that I drew was totally just, I just made up, just like, okay, there's this open area, Yeah, I know. You're like, I had no idea.
The way you were randomly drawing those rocks.
Yeah, they're very, very specific. Yeah, because sometimes, like, I like having maps. I think it helps a lot with knowing exactly the position you're being. And it's actually a really big tool for me specifically, because I don't want to remember, like, wait, how far away from this enemy is this particular player? Like, that's too much work for me. So
Right.
a grid just helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even just drawing a very simple map like that, just really fast, works great for that kind of situation.
Most of the pre-made maps I feel like you've ever used, I always found were like really cramped too.
A lot of
And
them,
the way
yeah.
space works in this game, it's like, I hate fighting in a corridor. Why do they always seem to put us in like little corridors?
Yeah, it's
It's
hard.
ridiculous.
I think it's fine when there's like a few of those, because then, you know, it's like challenging and you have to come up with a way to do it. But if it's always like that, yeah, it gets dull.
It's like, I can't fireball right now. I can't fireball ever. There's always going to hit all my friends.
And well, your first mistake was having friends.
Yeah.
And your second mistake was having friends that weren't fireproof.
I want to play solo.
Oh my God, it's just you and me at
Yeah.
the table, and just like, it's so obnoxious.
I could watch. You know, I feel like people could watch that.
Yeah, people who
Yeah,
watch.
probably.
Yeah. Stay tuned. And then our OnlyFans page.
Yeah. Could do that at the same time. OnlyFans meets D&D.
Yeah. Then we quickly have to transition. The lighting stays the same though.
Yeah. Cool. I don't think that looks good on us.
Oh my God, I know. Yeah,
We're working it out.
We're working it out. A few things that came about in this encounter with the zombies. You know, it was very simple. I don't think anyone got hurt except the zombies, which is fine. You know, it's sometimes it's fun to have an encounter that's just like makes the characters feel like, yeah, we're fucking nailing it. You know, you don't want all of them to be like that. And I'm sure you noticed the last fight was absolutely not like that. But I think starting off with like a fairly easy fight is a good way to kind of boost everyone's confidence and also just, you know, shows them off how like they're awesome adventurers, right?
Yeah.
I think you literally said this during the stream, actually,
did.
that you used a very light encounter at the beginning to lull them into their false sense of security, so they might be a little bit more boisterous or forward actioning in the near future.
So the way I phrased it this time around was a lot nicer, but you're right. During the stream, I did say I'm lulling you into a false sense of security. So it's a bit of both. It's A, I'm trying to make you feel like you're having fun and confident, and B, I want you to be too confident and do something stupid.
Yeah, setting them up for the hard boss at the end.
Exactly.
We
It's
did.
fun. Another thing is, so we had a crit fail for one of the zombies. He, what was, he was trying to attack Zavon and he rolled a 1. Now this is a house rule, but it's a very common house rule for a lot of DMs, is that when you roll a 1 or a 20, instead of it just automatically succeeding and being a crit or automatically failing, you come up with something really good or really bad that happens on top of it. I think that just adds a lot more fun and variability in the fights. And
Yeah, it's just a little bit extra, and then also we play with the rule where normally the 1 in 20 thing is only for attacks.
Yes.
Whereas you also roll the d20 for ability checks. That doesn't technically in the rules have that rule, but it's extra fun to come up with fun punishments or just interesting ways to reward the player for rolling a natural on these.
Exactly, because
spectrum there.
the whole point of rolling the die is adding that element of uncertainty. And if the stakes are just you fail or you succeed, that makes it kind of, it's too black and white. You having sometimes levels of success too is totally something that you can do. You can choose to do as a DM, or levels of failure. And a nat 1, it's always fun when someone rolls a nat 1, because it's like, oh shit, but also, ooh, what's going to happen, So when the zombie rolled the nat 1, I was just like, well, it had already died the one time. I'm just going to make it splat like a bug. Like,
Splat against a shield.
yeah, just have fun with it. Come up with something silly. The other thing is, for the zombies specifically, and this is something you're going to be doing a lot as a DM. You probably don't do it a lot to start, but eventually you will get very comfortable doing it, is lying. and fudging the numbers. So the only time I did it this particular or the last time we sat down was when the zombies, whenever they're hit and whenever they go down to 0 HP, instead of dying, they do a Constitution saving throw. There's a way to calculate what the DC is. And if they succeed, then they actually come back with 1 HP, right? So that happened twice, I think, during this fight. And it actually would have happened again because I rolled high, like really high again. So I was just like, oh, fuck it. Like, I just wanted this to be a little small encounter. So I was just like, no, he failed, you know? And so that's something that as a DM, if you think that something is going too long, that it's no longer fun, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm just rolling the dice and waiting for it to go down to 0. Like, just stop. Find a way to make it stop, but try to make it seem as if you're following the rules.
Yeah. You can just wrap it up, but like lying. When you said you were lying, you know, it was like, oh, he's coming after us. The DM's like, he's gonna get us with his like bake rolls and extra damage. And Patrick's just a really nice DM. He's like, he's helping wrap things up. Especially when an encounter is going on so long. Some tables actually even just have a thing where if the battle is going their way and there's maybe just a few minions left, you can just you wrap it up. You get the rest of them. Well, like it's no big deal. So
exactly.
Whatever helps keep the pace and move things along when you're not wanting to like drag things down. Especially maybe for stream when you're trying to be entertaining, we get sidetracked often enough that just wrap up the encounter and we can move on to the next scene if it's not really adding anything to the story to have the zombie come back for the 3rd time.
Exactly.
But that is a fun zombie mechanic. You could have, on the other hand, decided the zombie should come back because the encounter was too easy.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
give them one more round to get an attack in.
Yeah, definitely. So. I could have. And that's the thing is when you're the DM and you do have quite a bit of control. And I say lying, but it's not really lying because you're using it to create a better story and a more fun game. So it's totally legit. And yeah, that's what I did. So you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate your dishonesty.
It's the first time anyone's ever said that to me. The last thing about this is the XP I gave them. So the first time when I calculated it, I did give them a little bit too much. But then when I ended up giving them, I think it was like 50 XP each. That is still a lot of XP for just fighting 2 zombies. But I always give more XP than the book suggests. And that is because if you don't, leveling up takes a really, really long time.
It's already so painful.
Yeah. And I like, I like that things go, that you feel like that sense of progression at like a bit of a faster pace. That's something that you can choose to do as a DM. I actually have a way of calculating it, but basically it's like the regular amount of XP and then you double it and then you take like 0.5 of that and add it to what the total is. And then I divide it by the number of players and that's how it works. Okay. So yeah.
That's a special Patrick secret math thing right there.
Special Patrick secret math, just to give them just a little bit extra.
Yeah. Plus, there's always the opportunity to award XP based on just role playing or social encounter stuff. There's
completing quests. Yeah, I like giving XP after completing like a really like big task, like a quest sort of thing. I haven't done it in a while because you still haven't technically completed anything yet. I like it when it's like, okay, you finished this. Here's a little bit of XP. Yeah. A great thing in this particular campaign setting as well is in the Guildmaster's Guide, it gives you the whole, renown within your guild, which is pretty fun. So if you complete certain tasks that, that furthers the objectives of the guild, then you actually gain renown, and then with enough renown you can actually gain different ranks and gain different perks within the guild, and they're all different depending on the guild that you're in. So that's pretty cool.
How's it going to work with all different guilds?
Well, see, and that's the thing is that if these particular guilds are coming together to accomplish a similar task, it's still totally possible for every single one, even though you're in a different guild, to still progress within that one guild. The exception might be Liam. Yeah. Because Liam is Demir, and it's become pretty clear that Demir is kind of an enemy in this campaign setting, which I like because
neat.
well, yeah, and it creates that tension between the characters and, you know, the tension within Liam himself, because maybe he probably doesn't even really want to be Demir, but you know, kind of doesn't have a choice. Once you're in, it's hard to get out. They don't like quitters. So yeah, in that case, it might be a little bit harder, but well,
yeah, because I guess maybe we could complete something and that puts the rest of us up in renown, but makes him look bad.
Yeah, and if you look bad enough, your renown can go down.
Yeah.
So we'll see how he handles it.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I don't know, he might turn out to be like truly your enemy.
No way.
Milos cries.
No, he can't be.
Yeah, we're getting there. So when we get near the end of the session, we can kind of talk about maybe what's going to happen next in the dramatic turns that have taken place. We might be remiss to not just drop the mention of mile-based leveling up, which is something that you can also do, like especially in like, you know, you complete this task, or, you know, it seems about the right time that you've done enough, you should level up. But I also think that players really like XP because it just feels rewarding in the
Gives
moment.
you that dopamine release, man.
And you get to write down a number on your sheet and kind of like add them up and go, oh, I'm getting closer, you know?
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I know some DMs really like it. I think Steve really likes milestone leveling up, and I think it's a totally legit way of doing it as well. But I prefer the XP and just like finding ways of getting them more.
Yeah, you basically almost perform a XP leveling sort of adjustment to kind of get to that tier like milestoning level up. So you just, you know, you're the DM. You have complete control in the sense you can give a little extra XP, or you just tell the party, oh, it was only worth 10 XP. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not going to level up yet. Sorry, like I'm not ready for you. So
well, yeah,
do whatever
exactly.
you want.
If you want to keep them at a lower level for the next fight, you want it to be a little bit more challenging, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
You know?
But Patrick's a very nice DM, so he always gives extra XP.
Well, I'm nice in the sense that I give lots of XP, but then I'm just like, okay, you're gonna fucking need it.
Damn.
Yeah. So the next part. So after that, they pretty quickly got to the Yavitz family crypt. Whole thing that the backstory for House Yavitz, how they got into confrontation with the Golgari and all that stuff, that is completely made up. I just made that up.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's no reading material on that. The campaign setting of Ravnica does have a lot of backstory and a lot of cool stuff you can read up online if for fun. But also it's your world, and it's such a huge world that you can come up with lots of stuff yourself. So that's what I did. And then like the puzzle and all that stuff, that was also just me. Puzzles are really, really tricky.
Yeah.
When you're coming up with them as a DM, because you're the only person that I've DM'd with, or I've DM'd for a lot. But the other three, I don't really know. And this was kind of the first puzzle you guys were coming across, really. So I didn't really know how it would go, right? Because sometimes you come up with a puzzle and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a nice little easy puzzle, but they'll be good with it. And then it takes so long, right? Because and it's not because someone's dumb or someone's stupid. It's just that people's brains work different, and something that might seem simple to you might be more difficult for someone else. So I have to try and come up with something challenging enough that it's like you feel accomplished when you do it, but also, you know, it's solvable.
Yeah. And we got it pretty quickly, but I think it did take like our collective minds. Like we each seemed to contribute something towards.
There was a lot of discussion.
Yeah. Like they were going to be like, oh, let's just put them on the ring finger. And then I think I was like, well, he did specifically say which fingers each of those was on. Maybe we should consider that.
Yeah.
And yeah, then
I think
it's like a few different ideas about how that would look out.
Yeah, and that's what I was happy to hear, that there was at least like some back and forth. You did solve it pretty quickly, but at least it wasn't like, oh, obviously this is what it is.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
very well could have tried multiple times and not got it from.
yeah. And if you
how it was
had,
going?
I did. So you don't know because you never did it in the incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
You almost did. You almost did like
Almost.
the order that was on the hand of the youngest,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't. If you had, you would have had to have fought a specter,
Ooh.
which is just a ghost. The Orzhov Guild, they often use ghosts as guards, as servants, and well, really they're slaves. It's quite horrible that, I mean,
Right.
slavery is bad, but especially, you have to be a slave even after you're dead. Jeez, like,
Ooh.
it's rough.
It's on both ends of the spectrum, though, because you have all of the ghosts who are the slaves, but then you have all of the ghosts who are the most wealthy and opulent, who carry on and, keep their wealth in their afterlife. And the actual leaders of the Orzhov Syndicate are
Are
a
ghosts, yeah.
ghost council of these, wealthy oligarchs who just, they're kicking around.
Yeah.
still.
So yeah, the disparity between rich and poor ghosts is quite bad. So yeah, you would have had to fought them. If you had done so again, I probably would have just had it like not work. I didn't want you guys to fight like a zillion ghosts if you kept getting it wrong, but
Yeah.
at least one if you got it wrong. Thankfully, he didn't have to do that.
Do specters possess bodies? I feel like that's what that would be.
Actually, I don't recall. Yeah. I like had this encounter prepared a while back, and I had it like marked in my book in my monster manual. But yeah, never. So I don't remember since the last time we did that.
Yeah, I brought all my D&D books out, except I forgot to bring out the monster
Oh.
manual.
Oh crap! I forgot mine too. Well, oh wait.
No,
I
that,
didn't.
Nope.
that's it right there.
Nope,
we could
don't
we could look it up. We'll
Ooh.
cut this out if necessary because it'll be boring. But you're gonna end up watching it because I'm gonna forget to do that. So,
Specters.
but if I recall correctly, there are ghosts and specters. There might be two different stats.
Yeah, so basically, any non-corporeal, like undead, a lot of them work for some of them work for the Dimir, but a lot of them work for the Orzhov. So you kind of want to try and find, for, you guys, kind of a lower level, trying to find a low level non-corporeal ghost for you guys to fight. It suggests in the Guildmaster's Guidebook for encounters with Orzhov Spectre as one of those. So that's what.
Yeah, you don't want the super high CR version that's like extra hard and will kill your level 2 party necessarily, right?
Yeah,
But-
so the actual ghost, which is another creature in the monster manual, those are, I believe, DC 4, so difficulty class. So basically, a party of all level 4 would have a pretty good chance of beating it. But a 4-person party of level 2s,
Not a very good chance.
well, it's because, it would have been hard, but I already had a DC 4 thing for you guys to fight, and that was the vampire. Spectre, shadow.
They scale so weird because high level things really do just do enough damage to kill you in one shot, and it's
Yeah.
obnoxious.
Sorry, I think Patrick. Do you mean CR? Is it C? What's CR?
Oh my god,
stand
yeah,
for?
that's exactly
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. The challenge rating.
challenge rating.
So it is CR.
Yeah, difficulty classes when you have to like roll against the check
Yes.
to see.
I was confused those two things.
They're basically the same almost in a very meta sense. So
Death salad.
So this is the specter right here. So no, it can't possess you. Basically, the only thing it can do is it can go inside you. But if it does and it stays there, then it takes like some force damage. The only thing it can do is like try and drain your life. But that
Just
would have
like
hurt.
everything else that goes inside of me.
What?
I don't know.
Like dicks or
I guess.
tapeworms?
I don't know. Probably.
Are you okay? Do we need to talk? You are.
I don't know
You
where
don't look
exactly
well.
I was going with that.
Yeah, so coming up with puzzles, it's something that takes practice. I recommend, there are places you can Google online for other DMs puzzles that they've come up with. I've done that before, especially when I was starting. This particular one, now I've done enough puzzles that I kind of have a pretty good idea on how to kind of tailor one, but it's still tricky to find out how people are going to do with it. Ben, when he is in the party, he's usually very good at puzzles. So I have to come up with something complicated so to try and get him.
I play a 20 int character in that campaign, so he's got to be smart.
He's
right?
gonna be really smart.
But Justin usually does well too. He also plays a high intelligence wizard in that particular campaign that we were playing the most in, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And we did solve a couple good fun puzzles. Do you want to talk about sort of what the puzzle was, or should they just watch the show?
I can talk about what the puzzle was. So I won't give it away, I guess, if you want to watch it. But essentially, no, I'm going to give it away. Just go watch it.
This is the DM tip episode,
It's
right?
the DM tip episode, so I'm just going to assume that you've watched it. But essentially, they come to this crypt, and there are 6 stone coffins, or like sarcophagi. And on the big one that clearly was put there by the patriarch of the family, there's this poem that describes his 6 children. And it kind of has like a cute little thing at the after he describes each one, and it gives them in order of their birth. And then it says something about them like, oh, the apple of my eye. Oh, this one always had his head in the sand and stuff like that. So it was clear that he had favorites in this particular family. And then the last line described the 6th child, how he was kind of, a douchebag. And he stole the rings that he had given each one of his children. So he stole all of the rings, the 5 rings from the other kids, the older kids, and he kept them himself. So when you guys managed to open that sarcophagus just by lighting the right torch, you found on his skeletal hand those 5 rings. And the way to actually solve the puzzle was take those rings and give them back to each of their rightful owners. So you had to give the right colored ring. So there were 2 that were gold, 2 that were silver, 1 that was bronze. So the 2 that were gold obviously went to his 2 favorite kids. The 2 silver ones went to like the kids, he kind of liked, and then the bronze was like to the, little shithead. So, they got that. You guys got that part pretty well, pretty quickly. But then the thing that almost stumped you and that almost made you go in the wrong direction was which finger to put the ring on. So each one of the statues that was above each sarcophagus of the kid that it corresponded to had their hand like this. So clearly they could put the ring on any one of these fingers, but they had to figure out which one to put it on for each child. So there were a few things you almost did. There were like 3 possibilities basically that you came up with. One of them was put each of them on just the ring finger, right? The other one was put it in the same order that was on the hand of the kid that stole it. That one you almost did. Yeah. But then Zavon said, no, he specifically mentioned the order of the kids that they were born. Yeah. And that was correct. Yeah. So you put, depending on, is it the first child? Okay, first child, it's the thumb. Is the first child a favorite? Are they kind of in the middle, or are they kind of, shit for last?
Yeah. I think it was like gold, silver, bronze, gold, silver, maybe.
Yeah. There's also some discussion you guys did of like bronze was the most
valuable of them,
or just like the most useful.
Let's not
or
hang up on that.
Yeah, and I was kind of interested. I was like, where are they going with this? Like,
favorite gets the bronze
because they're so hardworking. But yeah, you ended up getting it. So for this particular puzzle, I already knew like some of the elements that would be there. I already knew it was a crypt. So I was like, okay, what are in Orzhov crypts? Well, they're very opulent. So they're going to have statues of themselves because they have very high opinions of themselves. And then what else? Well, there's probably going to be jewelry. They loved gold. And, who doesn't want to put a ring on it? Mm-hmm. So I had that. And then the rest just I came up with it together and then the thing about the family, well, Orzhov, they're kind of like nobles. Right? They're like powerful oligarchical families. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just kind of took those elements together and trying to weave them into a puzzle.
Yeah.
What about the families? They kind of had a backstory about their ancient rivalry with the Golgari. I assume there was a good tie-in there, specifically because the crypt happened to be in the very deep undercity of the underground.
And I wanted to be in a place that was kind of abandoned, that not a lot of people knew of. If this ancient crypt was no longer really being used, even by the Orzhov, then that would be like kind of a safe place for the Dimir to use, right? So originally this puzzle, kind of like the idea I had in my head is like the puzzle was originally designed to lead to like a small little hole in the wall where the Orzhov kept some of their treasure secret, or like this particular family kept some of their treasure. But then because, they basically this line of people, they're no longer alive. They're all ghosts now, or, they've gone beyond. The Dimir came in and they're like, okay, well, why don't we use this crypt? We figured out the puzzle. Why don't we use this crypt and use it as like a go-between this area and where one of our safe houses is. So that was kind of the idea there.
Yeah, I really just like the idea that you continually reinforce the world too by kind of touching base on things like the Golgaris, inhabiting the Undercity, and just like creating ties that just remind people of where we are. It's RAVNICA, the city of guilds. Let's lean into that.
Yeah. Exactly. So I really like the setting a lot. So I really do want to try and keep pushing that. Like, yes, the guilds are interacting with each other in this particular way now in the present, but these guilds have existed for 10,000 years. So there's a very long history there. And there's a lot of it that's pretty unknown because in 10,000 years, you're going to lose some stuff, right?
Yeah.
Stuff gets destroyed and the information that may have been held there gets lost as well. So it's kind of fun that you can come up with some cool stuff on how they interacted in the past.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, so after you guys did that, one thing I kind of wanted to mention. So when you guys solved the puzzle, the door, this like secret passage opened and the intellect devourer came out. Intellect devourer, also a monster in the monster manual, and it's one of the suggested creatures that kind of fight for the Dimir. Kind of makes sense. They are like psychic little monsters that eat brains. Yeah. So, and fairly low level, but they did a lot of damage if they actually had succeeded, but you guys like crushed it. But before the fight started, Liam, or rather Jace, the guy who plays Liam, he was like, oh no, we closed can we close the door first? And it's like, oh, you didn't say that. And he's like, well, can we say that we did? And it's like, no. And I can go either way. I try and be as consistent as possible, but generally I'm not a huge fan of retconning, especially if, I will do retconning if like, oh, we have to for things to make sense, and I'm going to give an example when we get to that part later. But for the most part, I try not to do it. Like if you wanted that to happen, you should have told me before.
There's my character really would have done this, but at the same time, your character might also really have forgotten too. So time traveling is not part of D&D. So
my character would have time traveled.
Yeah. Would have gone to his DeLorean.
Yeah.
And no, so I'm pretty, would you say like I'm usually pretty strict about that? I don't know, actually.
I think go back and forth is pretty like legit, because that instance you were like, no. A lot of other times you have been like, okay, yeah,
especially if it's something small. Sometimes I'm like, fine. But like if it's in combat and it's something that would give it like maybe have given you an advantage in combat or something like that, then I'm kind of a little bit more strict. I think I'm just like,
it's true. Usually inconsequential stuff.
Yeah,
you're like, All right.
Yeah, like if it's like, oh, can we say that I like got potions? It's like, oh, you're probably fucked if you didn't. Okay, fine. Like,
All right, sure.
that was another thing when you guys were. But this, I mean, for this particular time, you did say you wanted to go get potions before going in the sewers. So I was like, well, it's a big city. There's probably an apothecary somewhere. Sure. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and that's another thing is like, don't bog yourself down for like super specific stuff if it's just going to give you a headache and it's just going to make things slower and more boring for your players. So, like,
Yeah, I believe if I recall correctly, you kind of hand waved the potion buying scene so that we didn't have to go back into meet another NPC to have an interaction. Martin's character Karen in one of the earlier episodes had a apothecary potion buying attempt kind of go wrong just because like he rubbed the wrong way with the NPC.
it was a little bit of a tiff.
So and that was a lot of fun. Then this last week, it was more like let's just get on with the adventure kind of
exactly
shit to do. So yeah, exactly.
So you can kind of do it in a similar way where sometimes maybe there's an interesting NPC at this particular shop that you want the players to be able to interact with more. It's also up to the players. If the players were like, oh, what does the NPC look like and stuff, I'm not like, it doesn't matter. Like, I would be like, oh, well, they look, come up with something.
Since you asked.
Yeah, since you asked.
Yeah.
But, don't try and bog yourself down too much with too much of that because it does get kind of repetitive after a while if you're not careful.
I'll just take a quick second to say hi to T Girly 17.
Oh my God, T Girly!
We all missed you a lot, and number one fan T Girly 17. Just happy to have you back. And
the T Girly.
It's been a while, and saying hi.
Yeah,
taking a little break.
Sorry we've been away so long. It's not Justin's fault. Please don't blame him.
I was on maternity leave.
It was a food baby.
Yeah. 3-month food baby.
Oh, gross. Well, I'm done.
Well,
she says, you're the bestest. You're all the bestest.
Oh my God.
So not just Justin. Oh my God.
He's so cute.
Yeah, she says, I could never be upset with Justin.
Aw,
Oh my God.
So-
I know. No one can. Look at that face.
you tell that to all of my exes.
Are they the ones now? though?
Yeah, absolutely not.
I'm just like, yeah. Okay. So when you guys you finally got to the safe house, the location that I described is, I think it might be somewhere in this book. I'm not going to spend too much time looking for it because I can't remember where the hell it is. Actually, it might just be in the Demir page. That would make sense. But essentially, it's like...
You're looking for the safe house diagram?
it's just like a location. I don't see it.
It's in the adventure section of the book.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. The adventure
Oh, no.
Demir.
Yeah, this particular thing, yeah, but I wanted to show there's actually a photo, and it's actually from a Magic the Gathering card, and it shows like the guild hall, and it shows like kind of these black pillars reaching and kind of making a ceiling, and there's like it's kind of like blue tinged but like with black buildings and stuff like that. I don't know if you know what it's.
No, I was like,
I don't know if it's the Demir. I don't think it's a Demir Guildgate, but like what's one of those lands that like you can play and you can
bounce land.
a bounce land. Yeah, is that what they're called? Where you have to pay a life. You can pay one
That's
life.
a shock land.
I think it's a shock land.
Oh, and what's the Demir one? Drown. Nope. It's a different one. Oh, this kills
Anyways,
me.
look it up. But essentially, I was describing like kind of a place that would something that kind of makes sense within the Demir, like where their hideouts would be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of inspired by art that's in the book, and all of the art that's in this book is all stuff from Magic the Gathering. Fucking gorgeous. The main reason I've ever played Magic is just because I think the art and the story is so freaking cool.
Right.
Because I'm gay.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks. If you like Magic the Gathering,
Good.
you're gay.
You're gay.
You're good.
Facts.
Well, I think it's only if you like, I only play for the art. Like, that's pretty gay. But if you're just,
we have one of those.
we
We do have one of those friends.
Yeah.
Keith.
Oh, Keith? Yeah, but I'm like that too.
Yeah, that's
Keith plays a lot more than I do, though.
yeah. He's way gayer.
He's way gayer. He should come sometime. He's great.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, Patrick selfishly started a Vampire the Masquerade campaign that he doesn't want to stream with those guys.
no, I'm practicing.
Yeah, practicing.
Eventually, I will make a Vampire the Masquerade
It's coming up, so stay tuned.
because
for
it's hard. It's a totally different
system and everything.
and it's hard to like get out of D&D.
Also very heavy role playing, I think.
Super heavy role playing, which I'm very excited for because I really like that. But it's very different. But stay tuned, subscribe, and maybe you'll see us play some vampires. Speaking of vampires, this safe house. So it is the look of it on the outside is in the book in the Guildmaster's Guide. So it's this kind of just this little hut, looks like a dome with some weird spiky black things on the top. Just simple, just a cute little house, a little bungalow.
Has a little heart at the top. Like the Demir.
Just like the Demir.
They're so romantic.
They're full of heart.
Yeah.
They like to steal some. But in the actual House Demir section of like the adventure part, there's this thing up the top here that describes safe house wards. And it gives you different suggestions. Basically, it describes how Demir, they're pretty tricksy, right? And they're really good at hiding. And that extends to their safe houses and their bases of operation. So this gives you just different suggestions on how to make it a little bit more complicated if the party does want to try and find a Demir safe house. There were a lot of different suggestions, but the one I took specifically was a particular spell, and it's called the Glyph of Warding. Very common spell in D&D, lots of fun. Basically, you make a magic symbol on whatever you like, and when given a certain condition, like when they open the door, the glyph goes off, a different condition can happen. So the different conditions that they suggested was like fear, phantasmal force, others. So basically, it's another spell that goes off just when the trigger is activated. But I used Crown of Madness because I thought it was the most fun.
It was fun.
It was fun.
So dramatic.
Well, it was super dramatic, which was fun. And also, like the 2 encounters you had beforehand, no one got hurt.
Yeah.
So it was like the time where you guys were in your most vulnerable thus far in this particular session is you guys hurting each other.
We messed ourselves up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So good job on that.
That was great.
Yeah.
So for context, the Crown of Madness spell makes it so that the characters are not exactly in control of their actions on their turn, and they end up actually attacking their allies instead of their enemies. So while they were trying to fight, they were just who were they fighting at the same time?
No one. It was
simply just all of them
just
themselves
Exactly.
getting through the.
I'll give you a little bit of
room.
context for this story-wise why that glyph was there is, and the reason House Demir puts these kind of wards there is because they don't want people who aren't part of Demir to come into their house. So when the door was opened and the glyph goes off, that's this Crown of Madness would mean that any intruder, they would fight each other, and the hope is that they would kill each other, right? And anyone who survived would hopefully maybe like fall into the water, and then that's when that creature that was under there would probably eat you. Yeah, so that was on the Demir side. That's what they're thinking when they're putting that glyph. Yeah, but you managed to survive. You all managed to barely though. Some of you got real hurt.
I got real messed up. I was at like 2 HP.
And Liam
put me down there. Yeah,
and Liam got knocked out.
Yeah.
By
he
Karen.
did. By Karen.
And then you were mad at Karen. Because
Yeah.
You're like, how could you do
How
this?
could you hit
him? He almost killed you.
He wasn't himself.
Yeah, actually, that was a really fun role play moment in the
Right.
stream. Lots of fun and like laughs because it was like on the meta level, but like in the moment, all of these tensions that were kind of between the characters, like Siobhan being suspicious of Liam and Milosh's like best friendship, and Milosh's very how should I put this? Naivete,
Yeah.
maybe, or just like, very, over the top, like so feelsy, like so Justin of, all of his emotions, and like, no, my best friend, I love him.
Yeah.
And like, even though he's attacking me, I understand, because in character as well, your character had previously had the Crown of Madness and had just gotten over it. So yeah, justifiably, maybe you understood what was happening, and you didn't want to see your friend hurt, even though he was about to kill you, against his own perhaps internal better judgment. You could see Jace just struggling, wishing like, to save face and not, stab you again. And he kept rolling, trying to make his save to come out of it, but he just couldn't do it.
So
And
bad, yeah.
that just made it all the better too, because Julian as Siobhan, who was, kind of trying to maybe put a wedge between Liam and Milosh's character, partly out of jealousy of their friendship, but also partly out of being suspicious of Liam, is like, kneeling on too, trying to prove, that,
hey,
your friend can't be trusted. Look, he's gonna kill you. What are you gonna do? So that was a really fun moment in the role play of the session as well. And it was all just between the party, just out of this triggering this trap that they didn't check for. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. Well, they did, but they failed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they rolled pretty low. I really enjoyed it too.
That's
and
great.
I liked the fun drinking game. If you watch the episode over, count the number of times I try and make the characters kiss each other. I noticed I did it a lot.
I was gonna say, I thought me and Liam almost kissed when he woke up, like when I healed him.
No, you
after he
kissed him
almost killed me.
before.
Oh, did I?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was like,
didn't I?
yeah, and I gave you inspiration for it, not because of the kissing specifically, but because you took your entire turn instead of like attacking or doing something like that, just to do like a role play, like kiss and try and bring him back to his senses.
Yeah.
Like, it's times like that I like giving inspiration. It's like, okay, you kind of sacrificed something that maybe would have helped you mechanically. And so for that, and because you were just like more into the role play, for that I always try and give inspiration.
It's usually better to go with the character choice.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh yeah, he would do this in battle, wouldn't he? Yeah.
It is always better. I agree.
Yeah.
More fun.
More fun. But you manage to survive, and then you go into the safe house. Now, the safe house itself,
Apparently was pretty safe. We had beds. We could have slept.
there were beds there. And actually, so Liam suggested that you guys take a rest, which I and he was right. He was like, God gave us these, which is a little bit metagaming, but he was correct.
Well, he did.
But he was correct. I put these beds there, and because I would have had no one come for you if you hadn't have ringed the bell. So you could have even taken a long rest there and leveled up. Well, no, you wouldn't have leveled up.
No, yeah. No.
That's true.
Yeah.
But you could have at least taken a long rest, gotten all your HP, all your spell slots, all that refreshed. But you guys didn't, and I'm glad you didn't, because, that just makes it more fun. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
But the map itself, I did not take the map that is in the book. This is a really cool map. But for this particular encounter, I wanted it to be very simple. I wanted it to be kind of like this is the last place. You're just here just like a smaller safe house where you're encountering the vampire and just like confronting him. I'm like, who's Mr. Taz? Why are you trying to kill Faelish? What's going on? So I took the general like layout, but I scrapped everything that's on the inside, just to make it like a big open room, essentially.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then you guys went and, rang the bell and summoned the vampire. There was a point in the game where you guys were talking about, you were on your way to the crypt, and you guys were talking about, partially in character, but then also partially out of character, like, guys, what if we have to fight a vampire? Like, I don't know if we're ready for that.
Yeah.
And in character, like, it kind of makes sense because vampires are known to be pretty tough. But then, like, out of character, you guys were talking about, and because, again, you four are all very familiar with D&D, so you know that vampires in D&D are very powerful. like
Yeah, they suck.
they're they're pretty tough. Yeah.
I just like looked at Zavon, I think, and Zavon was like, "Ow."
Yeah.
Just looked at him.
But that was, and this was like because the vampires in here are weaker than vampires in the monster manual. So you're lucky it wasn't one of those. But I had to remind you guys, like, vampires in Ravnica are very different from vampires in the Forgotten Realms or just like your standard D&D world. So I'm going to turn to the actual stat block here. So it's called a Mind Drinker vampire. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I had mine look a little bit younger and sleeker, but they generally look pretty chilling. Mind Drinker vampires are specific to Dimir, and they've basically been trained to be like the founder of Dimir, whose name is Zadek, who's like a psychic vampire. And they've been trained to actually harness psychic powers as well. And hence the name Mind Drinker. They're pretty nifty. I didn't have him use many of his spells. I had him use gaseous form to get there. Like, that's what happened when he came out of that kind of lamp thing. It's partially him using his own spell and like the lamp being kind of like magical. It's like a teleportation sort of thing. The thing that I did use that you were like, oh, she just like the vampire just looked at Zavon and kind of, almost killed her. That was the ability Mind Siphon, which is basically a psychic attack. It does a lot of damage. You can't use it every turn. It recharges, needs time to recharge.
Okay.
But when you do use it, you're able to read your opponent's surface thoughts as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how he figured out, like, oh, you're trying to push me in there. Or something
Which he
like
wasn't.
That. Yeah, which he wasn't. That was also funny. It's like, so that's something you need to watch out for as a DM too, is like, so in the episode, if you haven't seen it, Zavon had a plan for the vampire coming out onto the bridge and trying to lure this creature that was lurking underneath the water to come up and like attack the vampire and maybe distract him long enough for everyone to escape. But I thought that she was going to push the vampire into the water and then hopefully get eaten by this monster. And I said that out loud, which I shouldn't have, because then it was like, oh, wow, that is a better idea. And it's like, shit.
Oh,
like,
right.
Yeah. So sometimes be careful. Like, I talk a lot. So sometimes you have to be careful what you say so you don't give like them any too good suggestions or give too much away.
Damn, being smarter than your players, right?
Oh my God, it's so hard.
So hard coming up.
One thing, though, that I was not smart about was, do you recall how Cairn got knocked out because...
Oh, because he got suckled from on his neck.
He got suckled on his neck.
Slapped and then suckled from. Yeah.
But the slap didn't hit. And that's actually... So I actually fucked up the rules because in the book, on the stat block, it actually says that the bite attack can only happen if you are grappling the creature that you're trying to bite, which makes sense, right? Like if you're trying to like make a deep bite in a specific place to try and drain it of blood, it's going to be a little bit trickier. But if you have it like grappled there, it makes it a little bit easier for you to go and sink your teeth into them.
It's the classic vampire, like, I've got you and now I can get the bite in kind of thing. Like
Exactly.
If you're just coming at them and lunging with your teeth forward, it might, it seems a little more awkward.
Yeah,
so,
eat fist.
Yeah.
Basically, if I had succeeded the unarmed strike against Cairn, then Cairn would have had to do a saving throw. And if he failed, then he would have been grappled. And after being grappled, then the vampire can attempt to do a bite attack, but not before. So I kind of messed it up. But again, and this is kind of a big rule for DMs. It's not fucking up if you're the DM. You're God, you can do it. So I just came up, he just, Cairn exposed himself enough that it was easy for the vampire to just sink his teeth in just like that. You know, you can always come up with reasons if you do screw up something.
He just wears a loincloth. He's always really exposed.
Yeah,
that's not all he's sucking.
Because he's a minotaur, so he's got that classic buff bod, like exposed, like loincloth, horse, cow, bull man.
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
You got it. So
all of those words.
all of those words. So yeah, and I mean I say it's not a fuck up when it's a DM, but honestly, even with players, like there are often times where the player will do something. For example, Justin, would you like to tell everyone what your spell casting DC difficulty class is?
You might see here that it's 13.
So during the episode, I asked, he had a spell he had cast, and I had to do a saving throw for one of the creatures. And I asked Justin, okay, what's the DC? And he says 15. And at the time, I didn't really think about it. So that was a mistake on both our parts. Because, sometimes the player will mess up a rule and I won't think to check on it. And that's totally fine. Screwing up rules happens all the time. There are so many rules in D&D, and you don't always have time to flip over the book and try and find this for the specific rule you're looking for. And it doesn't matter, because as long as you can come up with something that makes vaguely enough sense and, it works narrative wise, then that's all that really kind of matters. So, but for this, I didn't realize, I'm like, 15, that seems really high. And I only realized when I watched the episode over again, I was like, 15, that's your level 2. And then I looked at it and yeah, he just made a miscalculation and it should be 13. Yeah, you weren't trying to cheat, were you?
No.
You would never.
I would never.
You would never.
I would never, though.
See, you can't tell with this face. You're just like, no. And I'm just like, okay. You do it like a million more times and I'd still be like, he's just making it. He's still a silly boy.
Poor dummy.
You play that card too, though. You're just like, I'm just dumb. Like, no, you're not. You're just an evil genius.
Yeah, me and my master's degree just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, very that.
Exactly.
One thing that I really liked was this. I really liked the vampire, like the character that I made. This is something as a DM you always want to try and do. Try and come up with a way that the NPC, unless it's just like a random NPC, they're talking really fast and you'll never see again. But even then, like it's fun to come up with a characteristic that kind of lets that NPC stick out in the mind of the player, because that's more fun for you guys viewing, and it's more fun for the player. It's more fun for me to role play something like, so I was playing like a vampire who's just like, I'm immortal and I'm fucking over it. And like, you guys coming in here, like just ruining my night. I'm not happy. So, right. It's fun to play it up. Don't just be like, I'm a vampire, I'm going to eat you. It's like, okay, but if you're going to do that, like, go all the way. It's like, I'm going to eat you. Oh, yes, I love a good snack. Like, or, just don't half-ass role-playing. Like, go all the fucking way. It's way more fun.
Yeah, have fun with it. I was wondering, actually, how much of that character was just coming out in the moment because the party themselves was so irritating, especially this one. Being a bit of a playing that dumb card again, in character, of course. Milosh's character really fits into that fun.
Yeah, his intelligence score is an 8.
Yeah, so he does have that -1 there, but like, they were kind of hamming it up and just being like extra annoying, I think. So that might have sort of helped spurn on the in the moment character creation of this.
So I had already planned for him to kind of be like kind of like over it, but then I didn't realize how over it he was going to be until the party was acting that way. I was like, okay, well, he's going to react in kind. But yeah, so it was kind of a bit of both. I do kind of try and come up with like, okay, this is kind of how I'm going to role play it beforehand, when I'm coming up with the idea for these characters. But then that might totally change when I get to the time where I actually have to play them, to realize like, just what's kind of more fun and funnier. But this one was fun. I like this one.
was good.
He was good. Too bad he's dead.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Oh, spoiler! Sorry.
I was really looking forward to getting our minds wiped.
Mhm.
Although then it basically would have felt like we didn't do anything.
This whole adventure.
time.
Yeah, we would have just ended the campaign right then and there. It would be like, well, they all forgot. You
Everything.
can watch it back on YouTube, but that's it. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
So
They forget each other.
There are a few things actually during the fight, and again, go watch it. The fight is really intense and really cool, and I think we did a really good job of keeping it light and fun and comedy, but also really dramatic and intense.
Yeah, the dramatic balance was intense in that particular fight, more intense than any other fight in this whole thing. And because there was so much up and down and sort of turns and twists, and the party players pulling out their best moves, Hail Marying and just barely making it,
It was great.
You should watch it.
Yeah. So when when the fight was happening, there were more than a few times that you guys mostly out of character were like, I don't know if we can win this, guys.
Oh yeah.
And I love that feeling. I love when I see that in my characters, because I want you to doubt if you can win or not. Your character should never go into a fight thinking, yeah, obviously we're going to win. No, don't do that. I don't like that. There are some DMs who are very hesitant to kill off characters. I'm not one of those, because I want there to be real consequences. You didn't, well, maybe if you had taken that rest, or maybe if you had gotten more supplies, or, there are a lot more things. There have to be consequences to actions. And also, if it's done correctly, it can create a really good dramatic narrative that can still work. You don't want it to be like, okay, someone dies and okay, who fucking cares? So that's why, when Steve's character died, Tweak.
Yeah.
Was it Tweak?
Yeah.
When Steve's
Or
character
Twitch?
No,
it's Tweak.
No, it's Tweak, I think.
Tweak, yeah.
When Tweak dies, you guys didn't know each other very well, but it was still kind of dramatic because it affected Milos as a character.
Oh.
Yeah. You still hold that oh my God, I killed someone because I was incompetent, or what is wrong with me? So it still worked.
You just couldn't save him. He tried his hardest and actually just made it worse. So he's fucked up. He fucked it up.
He grabs the heart, takes the heart out. Where does this go?
Yeah.
So anyways, point is, don't be afraid to push your characters. They will appreciate it, because when they do win, it will be all the sweeter. How awesome did it feel when you beat that guy?
It's pretty great.
Yeah. You were all super hard. I could see it under the table.
You see the table rising. Go back and watch the camera shift.
The mics were falling everywhere. Just don't be afraid to push the envelope, and make them think, well, maybe you won't beat this thing. But then when you finally do kind of, when you can see that the wheels are turning in their minds and they're coming up with ideas and how can we actually survive, that's magic. After the game was done, Jace was asking me could there have been any other way that could have gone? I was like, yeah, I have a bunch of ways that it could have gone. You could have all lost and survived and just lost your memories, and either that would have just been over. But I think that kind of would have been boring. I think it would have been more fun if what if, I don't know, Phaela shows up again. She sees that you guys don't recognize her. It's so you're victims too. Okay, maybe we can work together.
Oh, that would have been cute.
Right? So I thought about that.
All kinds of plot holes, or non-holes, tie-ins, possibilities. That was actually one of the most exciting parts of the stream, is seeing the players, the vampire offered this opportunity to kind of a get out of jail free card that was very tempting, because they were all felt that kind of moment, I don't know if we should fight this vampire because he's probably gonna fuck us up.
Yeah.
But it wasn't it was absolutely unwinnable, right?
Exactly.
And that was the thing, is you don't screw over your players by putting them in an absolutely unwinnable situation. You let them come up with those great ideas and figure out their way to impress you and themselves in coming up with the solution.
Absolutely. I would never make you guys at level 2 fight a lich, right? Because then that's not fun. It's not challenging. It just kills you right away. So you kind of have to find that balance of, you want it to be really tough, but you don't want to make it impossible, because that's not fun either.
Right.
Yeah. But the narrative possibilities of like, so the vampire was like, I have this power to wipe your minds. If you all just want to fuck off, I'll just wipe all your minds. Y'all forget this ever happened, and that'll be the end of this sort of thing. And it was very tempting. I was very curious to see what they would actually choose, because like Patrick was outlining, there could have been all these different narrative possibilities to continue the adventure, but with this really fun, new, different meta context between what the characters and the players know.
Yeah, exactly. And, there was the possibility, like Jace, when he, at first, the vampire was totally on Jace's side, was like, okay, well, you're Demir, these guys aren't. Okay, let's just, I'll help you wipe their memories, and then we can start your training as like, a mind mage sort of thing. And Jace could have, like, Jace's character Liam could have agreed.
Yeah.
And totally, so he would have been fine. You guys totally would have had your mind wiped. And then we could have gone, depending on how Liam goes from there, he could maybe try and recover your memories secretly behind Demir's back. Or he could just decide, fuck it, let's go full in. And maybe I could have come up with, he has to work with other Demir agents now. And all of you would re-roll new characters, stuff like that. There were lots of possibilities there. There could have been a total party kill, which came very close.
Yup.
At one point.
Go unicorn power.
Go unicorn power. You saved the day, made sure people survived long enough. And if it was a TPK, I would have come up with a reason, like maybe characters that are somewhat connected. If you'd re-roll new characters, come up with or new players coming and playing new characters, maybe coming up with a way on how they might be connected still.
Maybe my brother Otish would have went looking for me.
There you go. Yeah, because that one thing about making characters within this setting is that you have to come up with contacts. And yeah, you could have played one of those contacts, being like, I wonder what, you have a brother who is in Gruul.
No, my brother Otish, he's Selesnya. He's just a stronger fighter.
Oh, he's a stronger fighter. So you could have just played a fighter
Fighter centaur.
Yeah.
Whose name is spelled Oatish. Otish. And we are Milos and Otis. Okay,
I mean, like, I know what you're going for, but like, I hate it. I just want to make that clear. No, that's good. So so there was a lot of possibility there that was really fun. The way that it ended, I think, was great. So again, stop watching if you haven't watched it already. But the way it ended was kind of perfect, because what happened was 2 of the characters were down. They were unconscious, doing death saves. It was really looking bad. There were 2 characters that were alive, but kind of clutch for them too. The vampire is, going to come for Zavon, maybe kill her. And Zavon manages to use her divine power as a cleric to use turn undead. And as the vampire tries to do a constitution saving throw to try and resist that power, it rolls a nat 1. And that actually did happen. I didn't fudge that. Like, that actually happened. And I was like, perfect. Let's do this. And again, my house rule, and a very common house rule, when you roll a nat 1 for shit, something extra bad happens. And that includes when the monsters do it. So I had the vampire, even though vampires can fly, because of the divine power, he just falls off the bridge into the water, and this creature lurking underneath goes. And again, I did an attack roll. I had it like prepare an action the turn before, had it just fucking eat the guy, and I rolled really high for damage because it's a pretty strong monster. Yeah.
Happy that you didn't end up fighting the monster, even though if you had beaten it, it could have given you enough XP to take that long rest and maybe leveled up before you fought the vampire.
True.
I mean, this was probably better in the end, right? But
yeah. I would tell you what that creature was under the water, but I'm going to save that for later because you guys are still there.
Yeah.
So basically we ended the episode. They just defeated the vampire, and everyone is conscious again, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think you were all stabilized.
I mean, I'm looking at my sheet and my health says 0, but
maybe not then. I'll have to look at the ending just again to be sure.
Check.
But anyways, you guys are still there. So the possibility of that danger still lurking under the waters is still there, and I don't want to spoil it.
I guess we won't want to. No horseplay on the bridge then.
No. Well, maybe you should. I don't know.
Huh?
Maybe you should.
Maybe. Let's try it out.
I'm not going to tell you what to do.
I don't think Milos is feeling up to it.
The main benefit of streaming is being able to watch it back and go, what the fuck did we do last episode?
Yeah.
It's right
Oh my God.
there
It's
it
great.
is.
Because I take like a few notes after the fact. I don't take many notes during because I find I get distracted if I do that. But being able to watch it over is a lot more helpful. But yeah, so anyways, just to sum up like the ending, it's you when you're coming up to the ending, even if it's just the ending of a session, like not necessarily the ending of, you know, the adventure or the game or the campaign, you know, it's more fun when it's dramatic in some way. And if it hadn't have ended that way in that dramatic fashion, I probably would have come up in another way that it would have been kind of like, you know, a dramatic scene, like he would have grabbed the last character and like said something really scary. And I don't know, like just come up with, remember that you're playing an interactive storytelling game. And if the story isn't compelling, then what are you even doing? You're just rolling dice. So
You're just playing Yahtzee.
you're just playing Yahtzee, you fool. Yeah. So basically that was it. That was the adventure. We're going to pick up again. We're not going to play next Tuesday because that we're going to be playing Roll for Random,
Right, yeah.
which Justin, I think you're spearheading that.
I'm
or
working on it.
Yeah, you're working on it. I saw some of the tables you
I
got.
made a lot of charts.
Yeah, very good. Good boy.
Yeah. I know how to use Excel.
And then, but the week after, so 2 weeks from now, we are going to be playing again. We're going to pick up exactly where we left off. Everyone's still at the safe house on the bridge. Just defeated this vampire, and now I'm trying to figure out what the fuck they do from here. And I'm very excited to see what they do because I have no idea what you guys are going to do either. I'm going to come up with some things for that, but we'll see. You guys always surprise me, which is good.
I'm actually most curious to find out. So during the campaign, like during the play session there, they meet the vampire. And I think in that moment, Jace was trying to kind of pull a deception because he was very worried. Like Liam, you know, the in character even was very worried that they weren't able to maybe deal with this vampire effectively, that they would kind of get screwed over. So what he was trying to do is he flashed his Demir badge and he tried to pull a little bit of a role play and say, oh, well, you know, we didn't summon you here, Mr. Mean, Scary Vampire who's got no time for us and is being really sassy. Like, they're asking dumb questions like, who's Mr. Taz? And, you know, sort of tipping their hand in a not very smart way. I think, Justin, your character kind of like spilled the beans a little bit.
I think his name was Zizix?
And kept kind of just making it so that the deception was not exactly going quite right. And, you know, you were trying to extract information from this vampire. That was the goal of going to meet him in the first place, right? So, you know, Jace's Liam was trying to get on the vampire's good side, get him to trust him. So he showed his Demir insignia in front of the whole party. And it was just like,
Oh, shit.
Is this a good idea? Is this, you know?
And Zavon's just like, knew it.
Yeah.
Calls it.
So immediately there was tension within the party because they're all thinking, wait, what's going on? He's here saying that, oh yeah, I'm here for mind wipe training, and these are all people that I'm going to mind wipe. And
You had,
you know,
so the rest of the party had no way of knowing that he was lying either, really.
Right. You know, like, you know, I thought watching that, you know, he was trying to just pull a deception, get on his good side and whatnot. Yeah. But that wasn't going very well either, you know, and
it did at first, but but I like how you played it too, because you were playing how Milo should play. It's like, well, this is my friend, and that's when the vampire was like, I'm sorry, you're what? and you're like, we've been best friends forever, and he's just like, oh my god, is that so? Like, so it was good. But I think you're right, Ben, that was part of the reason why it ended in a fight. I mean, I think it was kind of starting to go that way anyway, but Karen is the one who landed the first blow because, you know, I think Karen he's suspicious of Liam now because he's like, well, this guy's Demir. He just said he was going to wipe our memories too. Why the fuck should I trust him?
Yeah, he tried to give that, I'm going to like try to wink at them and like let them know, like, just play along and trust me but the party didn't trust him.
It's like, how could I trust you? You have a guilt signet. Like,
Yeah,
you're clearly with him.
So they didn't know what to think, and
Yeah.
that made it even more exciting. So that's why I'm really excited now.
What you're gonna do with him?
Milos is very believing and trusting, and you know, very dedicated to his best friend. But at the same time, you did clearly see that he had the insignia, and you know, even if you believe that he was just trying to lie to get on the vampire side, he was keeping the secret from you, and maybe there's more going on that you. So I'm very, very curious to see what the reaction is going to be, and what's going to happen when you all wake up and regain consciousness. I think we'll have to just double check, but like Martin's character Karen, I think, woke up, and Zavon made the last spark. So
I think it's Liam and Milos that were unconscious.
So it might be up to Martin and Julian to decide what happens next.
Push him into the water.
Oh my god.
We'll see. The part of what I love about it too is because Jason and Julian are a couple, that their characters are so antagonistic in the game too, that like you know, Julian's just ready to just push him in the water, like, you know, Zavon would kill your character and make no apologies about it. So
and I love that. I totally agree. When couples are playing D&D together, I think just from what I've seen on like streams and stuff, I think sometimes it's common for like couples, like the couples characters are couples in the game, which I loathe. It's just like, we get it. Like, but when it's like they're openly antagonistic towards each other, it's way more fun, and it's funny, and like, you know, and maybe sometimes it lets you vent out frustrations you may have had for them in real life.
Maybe it causes more problems in real life.
Actually, I watched a YouTube video. It was with like some D&D, some DMs. It was on Geek and Sundry. It was like a roundtable sort of discussion thing, and they were talking about the D&D community and how they got into it and all that stuff. And one of the guys mentioned how he was partially responsible for a couple breaking up. There were a couple that were a couple in, like, outside the game. There were a couple, and one of the players was like low leveled, and he was going to go do something pretty reckless, and his wife or girlfriend, like out of character, was like, you shouldn't do that, like you're gonna get killed. And apparently she's played D&D more than him, and kind of was like trying to give him advice, like, you know, you're gonna get killed. And he does it anyway, and she's like, no, like, well, that was really dumb, like, you're like, why would your character wouldn't do that knowing how hurt they were, and blah blah blah. Anyways, they got into a big tiff, and then the next time that it was a play session, the guy didn't show up, and they had broken up.
That honestly sounds like more of a problem of he's a bad listener than anything to do with D&D in real, in like actuality.
Well,
but,
exactly.
Yeah, but still,
it's just that sometimes it comes out and stuff like that.
That it's all about role playing. You know, D&D is therapeutic. There's catharsis. There's
Absolutely.
a lot of you know, ability to try out new things, and maybe try out different ways of expressing yourself that, you know, through a character is much more accessible for you to do. Milos is a centaur who wants to be a unicorn, and I feel like that's partly Justin too.
Oh my god, absolutely.
You know, it's
a unicorn.
I mean, look at that face.
Look at that little unicorn face.
And my horn.
Oh, that's not where your horn is,
No,
baby.
it's right.
Okay, well,
Yeah, on that note, fuck us, right?
Yeah, fuck our drag. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us here at Can We Play Already? I hope you learned some cool stuff. I hope it kind of gives you a little glimpse on what's going on behind this genius brain, where I come up with ridiculous stories for my friends to play in. Stay tuned. Again, next Tuesday, we are going to be playing Roll for Random. And then 2 weeks from now, we're going to go back into Ravnica, you know, start where we left off.
See what happens with this exciting adventure, and how everyone's going to react to Liam's reveal of his Demir
contacts or
allegiances.
Allegiance, yeah. And until then, you know, if you want to know exactly when we start and all that stuff, please subscribe. We're going to eventually be uploading this to YouTube, so you might be watching from there. Feel free to subscribe and like this video too. We'd really appreciate that. And yeah, you can follow us individually as well. You can follow the channel on Twitter. We are at Can We Play Tweets on Twitter, so you can follow us there, hear more information about upcoming shows and stuff like that. Again, my name is Patrick. It's been my pleasure being here. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BloodPhoenix89 because I'm an edgelord, and eventually, I'm going to say it so often, eventually you're going to stop thinking it's weird. No? Okay. Well, Justin, would you like to plug yourself? I mean...
I'm Justin, and I'm not going to make a butt plug joke this time, and you can follow me at JazzKin321 on Instagram.
I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. Self-control.
Yeah. And last but not least...
Bye, everyone. Just follow us at Can We Play Tweets, where we'll let you know when we're going to play next, and then also on these things, because... It's really the only thing I care about. So. And also the community and having people engaged and viewers, and that's actually the best part about this. So, like, you know, it'd be great if it, you know, if you did subscribe, you grow and make more friends.
Make more friends, please. It's all we know.
We like friends.
Yeah, no, especially T Girly. You've been so great following us. Partially because of Justin's cute face. But we really appreciate that.
Reverie 333 just popping in to say you're all gorgeous. That is actually our good friend Julian. So he's playing Julian in the game. So you made it just in time to miss all of the secrets for next episode, and you'll never I don't know, succeed on your next death save roll. Although we'll see.
Yikes.
And don't watch through this because you don't want to hear the nasty things we said about you.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, Justin specifically.
Always.
No. So yeah, thanks you guys so much for coming, and we'll see you again next Tuesday. Bye.
Doodles.